Hey, everybody, welcome to the program, WRSA Radio. I am your host, Grenadier One. As always, I hope you are having a good week. It has been decent for me. Not a lot going on, which I guess is that between the holiday lull that seems to happen, where everyone's eager to get to Christmas and getting motivated to do much serious stuff is kind of a struggle, I think. At least that's the way it is for me, around my work and my normal day-to-day life this time of year. This episode this week was kind of a drag to put together, partly because of just what I'm talking about, just getting motivated to do things, but mostly because it's a statement of disappointment that could very easily fall into depression and a loss of hope. You can't let that happen. We can't let that happen. So, but it should not be that. It's difficult to push past the initial reactions, to be confronted with facts and realizations. But that's what we got to do. The title of the show today is "No One is Coming to Save You." Normally I don't talk about the title in the show because at the time of putting the script together, I generally have not really settled on a title, so I can't really talk about it. It's, kind of comes to me as I'm doing things. But this week I knew after reading the latest and greatest news this morning exactly what the title was going to be and exactly what the show was going to be about. It's just the thing that kind of jumped out at me the most. I briefly considered putting this show together as simply a 10-minute silent video showing, the latest Trump announcement. The world needs a superhero, the former president tells us yesterday, and today he presents us with an image of himself dressed as a comic book character, and tells us that he is selling a one-of-a-kind digital artwork, cards that you buy and trade or something. I don't really quite understand the purpose or the market for this. Who's this being sold to? Who's this marketed to? I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm not being a fuddy-dud either about a Luddite about technology. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I thought 10 minutes of silence showing that image would be kind of symbolic enough to respond to such a colossal dump of horse shit into the lap of the political public. Why do I care about this? I've told you that, I'm not really a huge Trump supporter. Not because I disagree with him really at all from a position, of his political position standpoint. I agree with him on most of the things he wanted to do. I think he was very solid, and I'm not a Trump supporter because he's been such a disappointment. We could spend a whole lot of time going over that, and I recognize that, the deck was stacked against him. He fought everyone, including his own party, and that speaks to his ability that got him where he was, and that he was able to accomplish things even with all of those things against him. And the problem is that just makes the disappointment all the more infuriating. We were so close to seeing a real, groundswell swing in the political landscape and environment today. And a real advancement in the effort to peacefully take back control of our government from all the forces aligned against us. And he represented all of us who felt like, our voices meant nothing or mean nothing, and all of us who we're simply cattle to be herded and harvested by these establishment elites. And he was there speaking for us, saying the things that we wanted to hear. Let's be frank. Whether I do believe he was sincere and meant and wanted to do all of the things that he talked about doing, but he was the man in the arena for us. He was the only guy who had the motive and the means and the opportunity to get himself elected to the highest office in the land and wrestle the controls back into the hands of normal people. And he failed. He collapsed and he caved into these forces that he was facing. I can only imagine what happened behind closed doors, outside of the light that we couldn't see, things likely that we will never see, that will never come out into the light of day. I do give Trump some credit in that I believe that had he felt he still had a chance to actually accomplish what he was trying to do, I think he would have done more at the end, but I suspect that it was detailed to him in very specific language and no uncertain terms that he was going to be removed from office and that he was going to play a part for a while, and then he was just going to go back to being, a businessman and living his lavish lifestyle and leave politics. And if he didn't do that, a whole host of things were going to happen to him and his family, which I think is probably the key point. I truly believe that his family was singled out, and it was pointed out to him that he couldn't protect them all the time. I don't have any evidence of that, of course. It's just a gut feeling, but that's just how the deep state operates. We know that. Okay, it's not a stretch of the imagination to think of something like that happening. This latest announcement from Trump comes just days after bitch McConnell had the gall to blame Trump for the losses in the midterm elections. He claims that the candidates were selected by Trump or that Trump influenced the primary process by backing these candidates, and that limited the GOP's ability to win the elections. And this makes absolutely no sense on its face. It's bullshit. He knows it's bullshit. This is just, him trying to stand up there and save himself and to marginalize and push Trump out of the whole GOP in general. If Trump had the power to select a candidate in the primary and that candidate wins, that indicates that more of the party supporters back that candidate than the other candidates. At best, it's a clear statement that you don't actually represent the people in your party when you say something like that, Mitch. It indicates that while the party members may want a candidate, that candidate can't win because people in the center will, the swing voters will not vote for them. Then the GOP is a failure. It's not representing the majority of its voters. It's representing a segment of them and some amorphous blob of center swinging voters that simply vote for people because reasons, that have nothing to do with political stance or political philosophy. McConnell and the RNC used that as an excuse to pull funding from candidates that they didn't want to win because it would further stamp the control of Trump into the Republican Party. Even despite campaigns having half the funds that their Democratic rikals and, had, considering other forces that were at work as well, the Trump-backed candidates did strikingly well in the elections. And that leads you to conclude that had the candidates that lost been fully supported and backed, then they should have also been able to pull off a win. All of that's a long way of saying that your supposed political allies and representatives do not have your best interest in mind, and they have no intention of doing anything that you want them to do in Washington, and they only see you as a means of sending them money to, fight the other guy. We gotta fight for you. We're there to fight for you. You just gotta vote for us. That's pay your taxes and punch the ticket for them and everything will be fine. Don't worry about all the other stuff that's going on that you shouldn't be seeing and looking behind the curtain, you filthy civilian. That's the way they think. The other news of the week involves more Twitterness, with Elon Musk releasing even more information about the goings-on at Twitter prior to his purchase of the company. For several weeks now, people have been watching this Twitter affair and waiting for Musk to fix all these problems and, restore free speech to big tech. In some ways, he's doing a lot to that end. I don't want to fault him for the things that he has done or has accomplished, I guess you could say. He's releasing this information, and again, as I write this, more is going to be released. In fact, he mentions that emails and decisions with regard to COVID are going to be detailed. What that means, we don't know yet. He even restored the accounts of numerous people who were shut down during the pandemic for supposedly spreading false information, which is good. I think that's a good thing. If you think that Musk is going to be completely on the up and up, though, you would be wrong about that. For every couple of steps he takes in the right direction, he takes a stumble in reverse. And this week is, a good example of that. He suspended Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab's Twitter account. Torba believes this was due to a Bible verse that he posted on his signature in his Twitter account. Someone who has the ear of Musk asserted that this Bible verse was anti-Semitic. It was a verse from Revelations, and I'm not familiar with it and didn't bother to look it up because I didn't think it was necessary. The takeaway is not dependent on what the verse actually said because Torba didn't post the verse directly. He simply had the numbers of the verse, and it would require the reader to actually look it up themselves to know what it says. And most people probably don't do that. But at any rate, Musk took the complaint of someone and ran with it. And that's not indicative of someone who fully grasps what power they have and can reconcile it with the responsibility that it comes with. At least yet. I will give Musk some time. I think he may learn his lessons. As he continues down this path and come to reverse some of the maybe harsher or rasher things that he's done or have happened along this whole process. He has shown me to be someone who will publicly say that he was wrong about something and change it. He's done that in the past, so I think you can... He's not a villain, I will put it that way, but the theme of this whole episode is that these people are not your heroes either. They're not your saviors, so let's not put them up on the pedestal yet. Maybe not. We'll see what happens with Musk down the road. Because the big picture here is I want you to think about these things. Think about these men and others whom you have looked to for leadership and guidance, and now face the facts. The fact is that you, and by saying you, I include myself, so let me just say that, and so I will say we from going forward. We look to others not just to lead and guide, but to act for us, to do for us. And we've come to the point that we no longer deem it necessary to act on our own accord. Have we been so disenfranchised that we can't even fight our own resistance? We've come to be so dependent on others for action that we want to outsource the revolution to businessmen and billionaires. It's like, yeah, we're tired of this bullshit from you rich establishment assholes. So, hey, how about you deal with our rich establishment asshole? I mean, what do you say to that? That have we fallen so far? Is this what we have become? Everything that I see tells me that. Resistance has become nothing more than something we watch others do on a screen. We revolt vicariously, but to do so ourselves would be such an affront to our comfort and risk to our personal stake and position that we dare not actually do anything. We have so much expectation that someone somewhere will step up and save us and keep us from actually having to risk anything ourselves. We've gone so far down that track that we elevate, two-bit con men and grifters to positions of such lofty heights just at the drop of a hat. Okay, they don't have to show anything before people are elevating them and pushing them into position. And this would be acceptable if they could actually accomplish things. Okay, I'm all for putting an outsider in to accomplish something, or someone who maybe doesn't have all the experience that we think they should have. As long as they accomplish things, as long as they get the job done. I give them credit. Con men and grifters are smart people, but when we shove them to the front and push them onto these pedestals, they are clearly above their capabilities. We elevate them to the point of failure, and it just perpetuates our disgust and our disappointment. It's just this vicious cycle. We've gone, so long without real leadership that It's not only unrecognized, it's demonized and it's rejected using the same words and tactics that our enemies use against us as a whole. This, people saying, oh, that person is toxic. I cannot stand that word. I hate that word. It is so malformed and beaten out of all recognizable definition that it's just cringe. And the second someone uses it unironically, I instantly reject what they are pushing, and I suspect them of being of questionable moral fiber. Okay, it's just that bad. We are our own worst enemies, and we do half the work of the bad guys for them in who and how we choose to follow people and listen to them. There are multiple people out there on various platforms that deserve far more followership than they get. If these people got, half the audience that some douche canoe like Ben Shapiro gets, we would be far in advance of our own goals right now. We wouldn't be having some of these problems. And the bottom line is that we are far too beholden by flashiness and charisma than we are with true leadership. We follow glitz and polish and have little patience for actual substance. We have too many people who get wrapped around ideological purity, who fall for this stuff as well, which I find hilarious. They want a story, they want a fairy tale character who is perfect, and for some reason it just causes them to be taken in by this glamour and this fancy show. Then when their chosen one is cracked open and reveals that inside they're just this hollow shell of a person, not only can they, not meet the ideological purity that these people are after, they can't even measure up to the persona that they've built for themselves. And it causes these followers to crash, all the much harder and just reject the whole thing. They stop, no, I'm just not even going to follow politics. This is terrible, And the big problem there is that they don't learn their lessons. They stay loosely attached to the goings-on of things because, their guy, their gal, whoever, their person, fell from grace, and so they kind of back away, but they keep a little bit of an eye on it. And then when the next showman appears, they hitch their wagons to that one, and it just repeats it all over again. Same cycle. It's terrible. It's pathetic. And leaders, real leaders, are not perfect. They make mistakes. They're not storybook tales. They're not ideologically pure. You will likely disagree with them. That's fine. The measure of your character is that you can disagree with them and still respectfully follow them. You can't go into the thing believing them to be something that they are not. And we've been let down by a whole host of people claiming to be willing and able to lead us into the future. Most of these people were not people that organically rose to prominence. They were sold to us. They were pushed to us. They were told, hey, maybe you should think about this guy or this lady, whatever. We were presented with a choice in this kind of massive choose-your-own-adventure game. And all too many times it sees us falling into these pit traps and spiky balls instead of navigating correctly through the book. Maybe it's time that we reject everyone that is being pushed on us and offered up to us as a choice. Maybe it's time we organically choose our own person and follow someone who does not want to be the leader. Maybe we should be looking locally closer to ourselves, closer to our homes even, and starting there. We talk about that often on WRSA, the page and whatnot. Local. Well, looking for leadership starts there too, okay? Heaven knows it can't be any worse than what we've been doing to this point. In order for us to do that, however, I think people have to learn. People need to be educated on what real leadership looks like. And I'm going to think about that for a little while, figure out something, kind of consult with some others, because I think we can help there. I think we can maybe start doing some historical looks or retrospectives on historical leaders. History is full of great examples, from the past of what real leaders are, what they look like, and what they should look like. And I think we can highlight some of those things across multiple platforms to maybe try to educate folks again, to remind them of what real leadership looks like. So we will start doing that in the near future, certainly in the new year. But that's all I got time for today, folks. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership, and I will see you on the next episode.